but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Hi, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and I'm delighted to welcome Penny Ellis from Big Brother fame. Penny, how are you?
Very well. Thank you for having me on your show.
Delighted to have you here. And as a Big Brother fan, somebody who has supported Big Brother for many years, I know some people will go, "What, Steve? You support that as well as watch Coronation Street?" But no, it's a show which I've followed for many, many years. It was one of the, if not the groundbreaking reality show, and Penny was in it. And she's written a book called Meet Me at the Mirror, which we will come to in due course. But Penny, thanks for coming on. It's great to see you looking so well, by the way.
Yes. Finally, yes. I think since 2020, I've come back to myself. I've had to do it backwards. I mean, you're an actor. So when you process for a character part, you know, you delve into their psyche and you delve into their habits and you delve into their, you know, what they like to, what their personality is like. And what I've had to do is do my life backwards, having tried to regain my reality. So I've had to refine me as the character of the realist me. That way round. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. Yeah, 100%.
It's been the funniest. It's been a life of almost a film for 23 years. And then in 2020, finally reprocessed myself through writing the book back to the character of myself, which is my realist me.
Yeah, fantastic.
So better.
It's a great, you know, for me personally, it's great to see, you know, you put a book together because, you know, having, as we discussed prior to coming on air, you know, been through the Big Brother process, which I think some of my viewers know, some will go, "What, you went through that?" Yeah, I did. I did go through the process and get to the last 24, but then was notified by letter that they'd picked Johnny the fireman as opposed to me. And I was saying to you, I felt like it was a blessing. But let's concentrate on your journey. You know, what possessed you? Did you decide I'm going to go in Big Brother? Was it just by chance? How did it happen for you?
Well, I really hadn't thought it through at all, and I didn't even know the show was on. I hadn't watched the first one, and I was actually going off to work. I was a very successful English teacher in Stratford, and my school was about 10 minutes up the road from the Big Brother house. But I didn't know. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch Celebrity Big Brother. And I left a lesson and went upstairs just to phone Big Breakfast to try and get my theatre company, because I'd just I had this theatre company and I'd just been offered a job to sort of have 3 days out of teaching to promote it round, you know, around east end of London. It was, you know, and dealing with drug issues and social issues. And we'd become very good. We'd worked with the police. We'd worked with lots of different societies and charities. So I was getting a name for myself. And so they decided at school that I could write my own title. So I became a projects coordinator. Anyway, I ran upstairs to get my girls on Big Breakfast. And this phone, I picked the phone up and it said, "You've come through to the Big Brother hotline. Leave your name and address." And I didn't have any idea what it meant because I'd never watched it. But I left my name and address. And then the letter came, you got that, you know, what you got to fill out, the application.
Yeah, the application. Now it's quite a hefty thing to fill in, isn't it?
About 65 pages, wasn't it? It was immense. And you had to draw a picture of yourself and everything, how you defined yourself, all sorts. And I did it I looked at it and I wrote it in the lessons with the girls. They thought it was funny. They said, "You might as well do it." And like you, which you wanted to promote your book, I wanted to go on then hopefully promote my theatre company. And I filled it out on the tube and I wrote up and down the bit. It was a right mess. You know, I didn't make it fancy. It just all a mess. And then you had to make the VHS videotape. Did you make one?
I did, yes.
Yeah. And I did that in the classroom with Nina, shouting and screaming at her, "Turn it off. I'm not ready yet. Now I can't edit it." And just sent that rubbish in. Literally absolute carnage, me and two of the other girls having a bit of a giggle after school, and thought nothing of it. So I literally applied by accident. So like you were saying, the meant to be is in our lives, maybe our, something, because once I'd got through the audition process, they lost my tapes. So then they phoned me literally very late on and said, we've lost your tapes, we can't have you. And I said, well, that's fine. I've enjoyed it because I love auditioning. I love theatre. That's my background. And then they phoned and said, we'd like to try and make another tape. And then I had to go to a hotel room and talk to this guy. And then they said, from there, then they said, we'll have you in. Then I got an acceptance letter saying you're one of the 50, you're one of the ones that are going to get in. But in the letter, they still made it very uncertain because they said you may not be in immediately. And I thought, what am I going to do? Because, I'd give my flat up to my friends to live in for a bit. I don't know why I did that. They had a supply teacher at school. So I thought, oh, my goodness me, if I don't go in now, and then on the day I was leaving school, they phoned me and said, the journalist has got your name, so you can't go in. And that was 2 days before I was going to go in. And I said, well, what do I do now? And he said, well, if you hide, then maybe they won't find you. They're looking for you in Stratford. And I said, well, I'm near the train station. He said, well, hide. I said, where? And then I went and hid in a bush, sat in the bush for an hour while then this black car came and got me. Absolutely ridiculous. And then, like you said, then I was in. Suddenly I was in it. And then that was another sudden realm of your life that's completely undescribable, unless you've experienced it's like when you go on stage or you're in front of a camera or, you're acting, no one knows what that's like unless you've done that,
So they get you in this car and they whisk you off. Where did they take you to?
They took me what was called the Thistle Hotel at the time in London Bridge. Mm-hmm. And I think all the other contestants were in the rooms as well by then. I'm not sure, unless I got in there early because of this journalist. And then I had to have my friend at home pack my suitcase for me. So I don't know what she put in there. And it was funny because when I was in the show, they used to comment on all the radio shows how badly dressed I was. Well, she just chucked any old rubbish in there. So I didn't know what I was going to have when I got in there. And she didn't pack any, you were allowed some luxuries. Well, I didn't have anything. I had she packed my juggling balls and a disco ball. I don't know why she did that. Everyone else bought wine in and fags for them, nice things. I didn't have anything. I had all this, clothes I wouldn't have probably put in my suitcase. Oh, mental. But I didn't care. I just, like yourself, you just, got in there and just sort of started on that experience, which was at the time experimental.
How long were you in the Thistle Hotel for then?
Well, I must have been in there at least, I think I was in there 2 days. I think people must have arrived the day after me, and then we went in on the Friday morning. So they had 48 hours, which I've written in my book, to edit the first 48 hours into that first half-hour show. And then from then on, they could edit the show 24 hours a day into 30 minutes. And when Dean came out, he said he was very angry for at least 2 years. He said he watched it back for 3 weeks. He said he'd never seen such strange edits. So when you're, if the way they edited it is what they did, that's how then we were shown. So me humping on the chair with Paul is absolutely out of context. It's all out of context. It's just put together. So it's, and I watched it on YouTube last year. I nearly passed out. It took me 3 days to watch it, and I couldn't believe it. It's not that bit wasn't even at that time of the day, you know. So it's very they really got away with that, in the day. I don't know what how they'll do it this time round, but I'm sure there's Duty of Care now, 2018, and there's 2021. They get trained for inclusion, so when they're interviewing, they get trained properly to see if that person is going to be strong enough to cope with that experience.
It's very important, very, very important that. So, I mean, getting back to your situation, you go into this hotel, you're there for a couple of days, and then you're taken down in Friday morning. You'll have to remind me, because obviously there's been so many series of Big Brothers since series 2, which you were in. Did you go into the house in front of an audience, which you did in the past, or did you just go in with Davina putting you in up the stairs?
No, she wasn't there. It was a frontier. It was like, the Great Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
There was it was absolutely barren. There was a tiny little steel walkway and a funny little house, right? And then we were stood behind some really disgusting corrugated plastic sheets, so I could see various people's feet. And then we were walked out in 4. So I came out with Paul and Brian and just forgotten her name, the dark-haired one. Then we had 2 people seeing us in. So imagine a tiny little rope, almost like a sheet pen, and then there's 2 people each for all of us going yay, like that. And then on the other side, there's quite a few photographers. But then what happened was, obviously the show got ratings and the show got popular. And basically when I came out, I was absolutely disorientated, because that walkway was now about 15 minutes to walk that walkway, plus a fancy bridge, plus a fancy studio built there for interview, plus a big massive area where there's about 20,000 people. You see what I mean? So the enormity, I remember coming up on the bridge and I lost my breath. That's what I was going to say, because suddenly seeing thousands of people, I went in I went in 2001, and I came out almost like in another world. The start of it literally became the start, because in there the diary room was like a prison cell. It was manky and grey, plastic black flooring, a funny little chair, but they soon cottoned on. So they made a glam diary room, they made fancy jacuzzis, they made fancy houses, they gave them loads of alcohol. Over the years and then they will come down the steps. When they come out, they come down fancy steps onto a big circle. They did that for Brian, the very end. I couldn't believe they built that. That's the first time they used the steps coming down. But we literally walked in like it was the front door along a pavement. It was no glamour whatsoever. But then you didn't expect it, because you never saw reality people on telly. So you didn't expect it to be glamorous anyway. We were just going to go in and go into a house anyway. So But it's funny how they built that up.
Because it was a social experiment. Series 1, which a lot of people, I remember when it first came out, will go, no one will ever watch that. People watching people doing things in a house, that's never going to take off. And of course, the rest is history. But series 2, was more popular than series 1. It was, I think, because of the casting. I think, yourself, and just going back through some of the people, there was Narinda with a Northeast connection, of course, Stuart, I think you mentioned, Bubble, who was was a rather strange character, I think, for many people watching. Other people you probably don't remember as well, probably Josh and Amma. You've mentioned Paul, who was quite popular. Elizabeth, Dean.
That's Elizabeth and Dean, yeah.
Dean was a finalist, and of course Helen and Brian. And Brian Dowling went on to have such a fantastic career, which became a national treasure in a lot of ways for a short period of time. So you went in with all those people, and it was, I guess, the second one was probably more experimental on the other side of the camera, because they had seen what worked and what didn't work with series 1, but with series 2 they had more of an idea. So hence probably the big eviction, which became much, probably the most exciting part of people's viewing on a weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, but finding, I think they, the ratings went up, obviously, once I'd had a massive row, and once they'd found elements that were, like with anything, they've got to have a hook. And once people are really letting themselves go, it's even when we watched, listening to an interview with the celebrity Big Brother lot. They forgot the cameras were in there. They lost the plot. You're definitely, for anyone going in, I warn you, you won't realise the cameras are there. And bits of yourself will come out that you probably didn't know were there, because it's all magnified. Like in lockdown, the menial is magnified. So you're going to be intense about, where's my towel gone, or where's my butter from the fridge or something. And you're going to let yourself go, and people are going to see that. And I don't think people are aware. I've had to really face myself, you know, having to watch myself again and see elements of myself that in my normal life and in context are very, very, are fine and acceptable. My friends love my eccentricities. They love my fun. They love my silliness. But in the concentrated edits of the show, I do look like an absolute lunatic, you know.
were you excited?
Lunatic.
Were you excited going in? Because you know, the one thing that always strikes me is it's changed now. You know, a lot of the people who go in, etc. It's changed from those early series, and I really did enjoy series 1 and series 2 and series 3, because of the social experiment element, and less of the look at me and let's pick as many over the top eccentric characters as possible, and see them all argue. I think it was more about that experiment. But I mean, were you personally excited when you went into the house?
Well, I really just thought, goody, I'll get a couple of, I didn't expect to win it or anything. I thought I'd get a couple of weeks or 3 weeks off school. I was absolutely knackered, you know, teaching. And also for me, because I'd given up on my theatre career, because I'd been, when I left Royal Holloway, Bedford, I was offered a job with the Royal Shakespeare Company, but I was with an absolute lunatic at the time, and I gave that up and worked in the video shop in Ashford. Let's not go there. And then I went into teaching. So I wasn't even going to be a teacher. You know, I was going to work in the theatre. So for me, I thought, oh, this would be nice. And because I now had my theatre company, I thought, oh, this would be lovely. Then I've got a little bit of fun with it. But I didn't even imagine, because if you'd never seen reality people on telly, well, I hadn't even watched Big Brother 1. I didn't imagine that. I don't know how stupid that sounds, but I really didn't think that I didn't imagine myself being even shown. And even some of the celebrity Big Brother people said that they didn't expect that bit of themselves to be shown. But when I looked at all the YouTubey bits, I'm in loads of it. They're like following me around like there's no tomorrow and showing everything. Sometimes I'm cooking and doing all sorts. And I'm literally one of the main characters of the day and of each day. And what really upsets me is I then watched the whole shows, and in the evening they're talking about me, because I used to go to bed a bit earlier because I like to get up to feed the chickens, and they're all saying, does she not know she's on telly? Does she not know, you know? So they had an awareness, but I really didn't. And that penny dropped when I heard Davina's voice on eviction night. I suddenly thought, oh my gosh, someone's seen me. And the only thing I was upset about when I came out the house, I was absolutely upset about the fact I told Stuart to F off, you know. And I thought, my God, I'm going to be in so much trouble because the kids at school have seen me swearing, not knowing that don't worry about swearing, love. There's all sorts out there. And what really upset me, my final point, is on the last Sunday, they didn't want me to do the shopping list because they wanted to do it. Got it all wrong. The whole show, that Sunday night, which is a half-hour show, is me showering in the shower. And were they allowed to do that then? I don't know. So I'm showering in the shower, and it cuts to the shopping list being done, then back to me in the shower. And then it cuts to me with my towel wrapped around me, washing out the jacuzzi, which I never got to use. So I was cleaning. And that was the main part of the show. And I think to myself, I wonder now if I can, you know, probably too late, and I'll probably sign my life away, but surely they're not allowed to sort of do these things to you. But anyway, you know, I've done it now.
Contracts, yeah. Read the small print. It's
Exactly.
a bit of a nightmare. But when you're caught up in the excitement of going into something like that, and you know, the thoughts of publicising something, sometimes you're going to overlook it. But it's interesting you mentioned the chickens, because again, that was part of the Big Brother. The one thing that was consistent, of course, was you know, the shopping list. Week 1, your shopping budget was £49. Which ultimately isn't a great deal, you know, between everybody who's gone into the house. But I mean, was it hard for you doing the shopping budget with people? Because that's a task in itself, because everybody has different tastes. Everybody has something that they want. Some people, as you've already said, have brought in things which are you know, that treats, etc. You didn't have that opportunity, so you're already on a loser in that respect. Was it difficult that first?
Well, I got bossy. Yeah, I think the trouble is, as a teacher, I got bossy. I was like, we've got to get, you know, we've got to get enough pasta. Well, we had the basics. We had a storeroom with basics, But I'm like, if I'm going to make these dinners, I will need, a certain amount of vegetables, a certain amount of and Bubble got really angry with me because I went in with the shopping. I didn't like going in the diary. Went in with the shopping list, and then they're out there going, "Oh, got to change it from wine to cider so we can get really, really drunk." And so he's bashing on the diary room door, going, change it to cider. And there's me. I didn't listen to him, which I should have done. So I didn't make myself. I didn't think, I didn't make myself very popular with that. But they did like my food. But they, I think I was a bit too, I think when you're trying to take control of something, because everyone's just sort of like you're saying about everyone being excited, they were absolutely excited beyond excited. And I'm thinking, hold on, we've got to get practical here, So I said, who's going to feed the fish? So, and then next thing you know, the poor Darth Vader got overfed. So we had to rush him into the diary room because then suddenly everyone was feeding them. And I said, right, we need a routine and we need a routine for everything. So I was trying to organise everybody. So I should have just let him get on with it, and stayed quiet in the background, and then maybe I would have stayed in longer and then I could have been more of myself. But I think I was really, I do like to get things done, so I can get a bit manic. And then when I get manic, it like with anybody, it can winds my husband up, if I get manic. So I didn't hold back. I didn't act in any way. So if I was frustrated, I'd be frustrated, like, don't do that, let me do that. I'll sort that out. So I probably was quite annoying, in a way. So looking back, I could have been maybe a bit more laid back.
Yeah.
And I should have just been a bit more laid back.
Other things which are, a common denominator of Big Brother are doing tasks. I think in recent series, the tasks sometimes haven't been as forthcoming, and I think that's why Big Brother probably failed. They moved away from the original format, and I think in some ways they were going more for extroverts, as I've already said, and outlandish things happening rather than focusing on what made the show successful. In the first week for you basically had to build a fire in the backyard by noon, and you had to keep it lit for a consecutive 120 hours for 5 days. Now that fire had to be watched by 2 or more housemates at all times. So you're busy trying to get, you're trying to organize people and get them a bit of organization with feeding fish, etc. But Big Brother also chucks this into the into the mix as well. How did you find the task?
Well, they knew we were flapping. We got it out the storeroom, and it was like one of those things you get from IKEA, flat pack thing. And I mean, I thought we're never going to have enough to keep it alive. There wasn't enough stuff there, but it was. Stuart took charge of that. Stuart was really good at that, and he got really he came up to a mark with that, and sort of got everyone and people listened to him because he was very calm. I thought he was ever so posh, and he was very calm and very precise. So he got everyone organised, but we all realised very quickly that we had no idea what the time was because we had no clock. So we went into Big Brother and we said, we need a clock because they wanted to keep us disorientated. And I said, well, there's no way we're going to get this fire thing done or have any rotors or know how many hours or how much hours have gone by if we don't have a clock. And the good thing is they gave us a clock and they let us keep it, which was great, for timing food. And don't realize how valuable a clock is when you haven't got one, what time it is in the morning. And, because before that, we didn't know when we were eating. We didn't know what time it was to eat. We were really disorientated for I think maybe 2 days or something. So the clock was absolutely brilliant. But then obviously people were more relaxing because it was a very hot summer. It was a really hot summer and everyone's lounging around outside. But obviously someone goes in and next thing you know, Helen's suddenly gone in and I think left the fire and everyone's saying, don't worry about it. And then behind her back, can't believe it. And then, I tried to cheer up by making brioche bread and that went all wrong. And then she felt like a complete and utter, and I was like, no, you're fine. And, the emotions run high with that one. And we kept the fire going thinking we'd probably pass it, but deep down knowing we wouldn't. But it did give us something to focus on as a team. But I wish it had been a little bit less harsh. I wish it had been something we could have all come together on, like later on. I love the fact later on they did being theatery, they did a thing where they could dress up as a character in the Big Brother, and then they axed out a Big Brother panto or Big Brother scenario, and said, I think Dean played Helen, and you could play each other, you know what I mean? Something like that, where it'd be more fun and a bit more of one of those bonding things that team builders do. Because this thing was just something else we had to try and do, and it was a harsh task, you know. So it wasn't like doing anything fun together. Does that make sense?
Of course it does, yeah. And of course, in those days as well, you had to, you could gamble a percentage of your shopping budget, which you know, I think you gambled 30% on that particular one, and of course failed the task. So by the time you get into week 2, you're finding your feet, but you're also, I guess, you know, you're getting to know your housemates. Was there anybody who was particularly grinding on you by the time we came into week 2?
When I didn't get on with I didn't really know what to say to Amma, you know. So Narinda and Brian were always round me, you know. They were always sitting round the circular kitchen bit. So they were obsessed with talking to me all the time about things. And Paul used to talk to me. I talked to Dean maybe once, you know, about life in general. But I didn't really talk much to the others, you know. I mean, you know, but when I fed them, then they seemed really happy, and we did all talk round the table. But Brian and Bubble had been in an audition. They knew each other from the audition. So when they came in, I was a bit, you know, not jealous, but I thought, oh, he actually knew someone. And but I did find, I don't know about you, I'm very good at being friends with people, but I found I didn't really warm to anyone like immediately, you know what I mean? Yeah. And if I had, then I would have relaxed, you know. So I was sort of with people, but they felt very much like strangers to me, even though Narinda and me were close. She's lovely, you know. We met up loads afterwards for about 2 or 3 years. Sorry, I have a swig.
Yeah, no problem.
But and Brian and me were close afterwards for about 2 years or whatever. But and I'm ironically now, Stuart's found me on Twitter and been really encouraging, and I got Bubble on Facebook, and he bought my book, so that's really kind. And Narinda sent me good luck yesterday for this interview.
Oh, so fantastic!
Nice. Yes, hello. But I don't see them, and I wish now that when we all came out, hindsight's a great thing. I wish we'd all clubbed together. You know what I mean? Because I had nobody, even though I got loads and loads of work that, you know, I don't know what I did with it all. You know, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no management, nothing. But I wish we'd all clubbed together, not to nick each other's limelight, but just to go, oh, look, this is what you've got to do. This is the best way of doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know. We didn't know. We all walked a lonely path afterwards. That's what worries me. And Bubble, I know, got really good management. I think you got like John Knoll management. But not a lot of us got that, so we're left to our own devices, and nobody dared, almost felt like they shouldn't, you know, ask anyone what to do. But I wish now I had. Would have wished I'd said, how do I do this? What should I do? What do I do now? How do I ask for money for this? Or how do I, you know, what do I do about this? And what do I do about the newspapers? And what do I do about what the school are doing to me? And what do I do? But I didn't ask anyone. It's terrible. You know, and you've got to ask for help in life, and I didn't. And I wish we'd all been together. I think they, you know, but we didn't.
You spent a lot of time in there, and obviously we've talked a little bit about the editing process, you know what I mean, and how things could be made to look different to what actually happened. I mean, I get the impression there's going to be a lot of boredom in there as well. After you've had that initial entry into the house and getting to know each other, and you know, the first couple of nights, etc. I can imagine suddenly you realize the predicament you've actually put yourself in, because you're in a confined space with a lot of people who you don't know, some people who maybe you just know you're not going to get on with, some people who aren't going to speak to you. You've got a mundane task to do. But apart from that task, you've got nothing.
Nothing. You've got a couple of magazines. I think we were allowed to bring a book in, but I think unless they said no books, I can't remember now. No, I don't think we were allowed a book.
I don't think we were allowed any writing implements, and I don't think you were allowed any books. The only book that was in there, if I remember rightly, was Big Brother's rule book.
Yeah, the rule book. We couldn't keep. Yeah, the rule book and the recipe book. I was allowed the rest. Oh no, I think I was allowed the recipe book for about an hour or two.
Yeah.
And then when we did our first aid task, we were only allowed the books to revise from. What another boring task. People were really bored, and that's why I sort of found things to do, the cooking and stuff. But people were really, really bored, and they did say, I remember Dean saying, this is a bit boring, and there wasn't anything else to do except just sit around. Yeah. So it was a very odd. It was a very odd atmosphere for that. But everyone was, like you're saying, they're such great personalities. They were always talking. So I can't believe how much they could talk about, I mean, I get to a point, I think I can't talk anymore, but Bubble could talk for England, and Brian, Bubble and Narinda, well, that's your entertainment, it really was, they just yakety yak. Yeah. So I think to myself, but we literally didn't have, like you say, we didn't have anything, that's another, nothing to do. So
yeah. Emotionally, Penny, did you have any moments where you got overwhelmed in the moment?
Oh yeah, well, I got really overwhelmed by the row because that was all weird. That was really
so. The row, just tell us a little bit about the row.
Well, that's with Stuart, and that was Bubble's birthday, and then we're all sitting around. They used to talk about sex a lot, all of them, all the time, and none of I don't think they showed that much in the show, and the swearing that went on in that house, unbelievable, And then everyone says, who would you sleep with? They did this stupid game out on the patio area, the decking. And then everyone was supposed to pick one person. So Paul was saying to Stuart, look, just pick someone. And Brian was saying, just pick someone. And then Stuart's like really taking his time. And then he went, I'd sleep with all of you except Penny. And then I went, well, just, F off, And then he went something about Paul. And then Paul started having to defend himself, saying, don't start on my friendship with Penny. And then Brian got involved, and then everyone had a hissy fit. And then I asked him I said to him, I'm really sorry, because I suddenly realised I'd sworn on telly. So then I said, look, I'm really, really sorry. And he said, I'm not going to forgive you. And then I got really upset about that one. And then Bubble came running in the bedroom and said, don't worry, I'll sleep with you if it makes you feel better. Obviously, he was joking. It was a nightmare. And then ironically, some of them were on Stuart's side, some were on my side. Awful evening. And the next day I had to attend the 5 a.m, and that's where he gave the wink he hugged Paul and gave him a wink. That went all over the front pages. I mean, this was like front page news for some weirdo reason. And then ironically, when I came out the house, he had another skanky row with Emma, and she's in the jacuzzi telling him to F off out this house, F off out this house. Sorry.
No, it's crazy.
It's hysterical.
That's what got the ratings in those early days, because people love people watching, and they love to see controversy. They love to see arguments. They love to see disputes.
Yeah, and Narinda and Brian would do their dancing. They'd put on shows. Yeah. So that came out. That was hysterical. That used to make me laugh. And then obviously Bubble with his hats. Then they used to play tricks on them. So Brian was very creative like that. So we had this dummy. We found this dummy in the den, and they said, that's going to be your 11th housemate. That was going to be Josh. So anyway, then they hid the dummy in Brian's bed and frightened the heebie-jeebies out of him when he went to bed that night. Thought there was another person in the house. So that was funny. And then because they're so bored, then they collect all the stones from the garden and put them in all the girls' beds. So we'll go to bed and then we've got stones all, screaming all over the place. So we did very, things you do in your childhood, like play conkers, you know what I mean? Yeah. So we did really innocent things. We really did. We did like really silly stuff like that. And then like little hide and seeks and just fun stuff, really silly stuff you do like as an 80s child, you know what I mean? Or 70s, you know what I mean? Very, very simple. I can't describe it. They're very, very sweet group of people, honestly. They really were. They're nothing, nothing. They're just very genuine, and if they felt we're a bit bitchy or a bit snooty or a bit funny, that's just part of what they were. But we just really enjoyed that little camaraderie. And I really loved it when we put the dinners out, when I cooked the dinner and we could eat it on the deck outside. I thought that was really nice. With some really heartfelt chats out there. And the girls from my school came down and shouted over the fence, you know, and then we had to all be locked back in. You know, they
Well,
locked us back in.
This is one of my questions. How aware were you of the outside world, and did you hear a lot of that from the perimeter fence?
There was the helicopters, the reporters were trying to get stuff, so the helicopters were up in the air loads. The girls from my school, like I said, and then Bubble wanted to know the football results, and someone chucked them over the fence, whatever it was, you know, the big wall thing. And then we all had to be hoisted back inside. But other than that, we had no contact with anybody physically from the outside world. We only had the tannoy of Big Brother. And I don't know if they softened the voice. It was whoever the producer was that day or evening was Big Brother. But in our day, it was like being lined up, you know, whatever, you know, it was like a tannoy in a supermarket, like fire, you know what I mean? It was like, this is Big Brother, you know, and you're like, what? And in the latest series, I'm sure it seemed much kinder, you know, this is Big Brother, expect the unexpected, we'll get back to you. Blooming age, you don't have to shout and scream like that, do you? It used to terrify me. And so I think it was just and that's all we had, but we had to get someone in because the chickens went well. And then we were all excited. We were all locked in the boys' bedroom and we're all absolutely excited to think a human being was in the house. You know, and that was a really weird experience, a really weird feeling, because we hadn't seen any humans for so long except each other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that we got to saw them. So, but it was weird to think there was someone else just a few steps away was someone. That felt really odd because you were starting to get, what's that word? You know, in your own bubble. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So week 2, you've already mentioned, you touched on it. The second task again wasn't one which, you know, was really going to bring people together. It was the first aid task where the housemates had to treat an injured people on the assessment day. How did you find that?
Oh, hysterical. Well, I learned it and I thought this is so boring.
Yeah.
And Brian took hold of that one because he's done that for the year, you know, as an air steward. And I thought, oh, blimmin' Ada, you know, I've come in here to get away from books, away from studying, away from teaching and learning. You know what I mean? I've come in here to relax. And I just thought, oh, you know, and then on the day, I thought, well, if it brings us all together, if it's a whole day event, what I imagined in my head, because we had so much studying to do, we had about 4 or 5 days on this thing, and we were given the booklets and they were taken off us in the evening. Then another booklets about resuscitation or whatever came the next morning, and we were allowed those for those hours. And Brian went round testing everyone while I was cooking dinner, and everything was being that. And then on the day, they woke us up with a massive siren sound, again, these awful sounds, about 6:30 or whatever it was. And we went out there and I ran out and there was, Bubble said, will you look after him? And this motorcyclist guy, obviously a dummy. So, and I said, well, look, love, just keep breathing. And so everything I'd learned, I stood there with this dummy looking like a right idiot, just talking to this dummy saying, don't worry, love, someone's going to be here in a minute. You'll be all right. And the others were doing bandaging and resuscitation and everything, you know, a serious thing. And I'm just standing there talking felt like a right idiot. And it only lasted about 20 minutes. After all that effort, then we had a really boring day ahead of us. That was 20 minutes. We had to wait for the result. And it was like, you know, why didn't they make that a really full-on day? The nicest task I did in there was the little calendar we made. We were allowed to make a calendar and know what's happened to them. I've got my picture. And so Paul took hold of that one. He had a camera and we all got dressed up. I did a picture in the kitchen with a plunger in my little sequin dress, you know, and Helen did the splits in her bikini, you know, and Brian went in the outside shower. And Narinda had her bikini on and was using the axe, and blah, blah, blah. So that was a really fun task. And part of the fire task was fun. It's just reminded me because Brian broke the axe that he came out and he smashed the wood and he broke the axe. And then we had to go to Big Brother and say, Big Brother, can we have another axe head? And they said, well, we'll get back to you. And we thought, well, are we going to break this stuff? You know, so we were panicking. They let us panic for about 2 hours or an hour or something. And then they said, yeah, we can have another axe. Oh, man. So, dear. So it was funny.
Bubble and Brian as well had, I think they were pranking each other, weren't they? Or
Yeah.
doing pranks in that second week. And I mean, you know, I think in one particular instance, Brian's beloved teddy bear went missing.
Yes.
And then the slats were removed from his bed.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
became a little bit more mad in the house, didn't it?
Yeah, they were out at trying it at, you know, doing each other's, you know, trying to make the dares more daring with each other. And I think they really hit it off, but they'd also met at the auditions as well. So I think they had that immediate, I think they had that little warmth. I think if I'd met someone outside and they were in with me, I would have been like a bit more, I had someone to, like, I've come in with a friend, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But then saying that, Brian went on to win the overall Big Brother, overall anything of anything, you know, and I'm just so proud that I was in with him, you know, because he's like the penultimate winner of everything, you know, the final of the Big Brothers and everything, and hosting it and everything. So I think to myself, well, I didn't really stand a chance with him in there. So
yeah, nobody did.
Nobody stood a chance against him. So however people loved you, Brian has gone on to be, you know, incredible, you know, and so I was in with a real superstar, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course you were. So the next thing that's synonymous with Big Brother, of course, is the dreaded nominations. I can imagine after 2 weeks with some of these people that you spent time with, nominating was the easiest part, but it was probably you wish you could have nominated at least another couple. But tell us about that process. What was it like for you? Because, I mean, when I went for my Big Brother audition, the very first audition that I had in Newcastle prior to getting through to the next stage, we ended up having to sit in a circle and we had to do a similar kind of role play where we had to nominate people. We had to talk, you know, that's the way they did it in Newcastle. So what was it like for you doing that in the show?
Well, we made it a really positive because we were all dreading it. So we were talking, trouble is it became a topic of conversation, because they suddenly sprung it on us that we were going to have to nominate 2 days before we thought we had to nominate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it was a fright that we thought we were going to nominate on the Monday. No, we had to nominate on the Friday, I think it was, you know, and we had to, and so that threw us all. And then we had to wait till the Monday to find out who was evicted. And then that person had to wait all that week before the Friday. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that in itself was a bit getting your head spinning and making you feel really tense. And then, but what we did, we sat round when it was finally was eviction time, and we started singing. I can't remember the song. I wrote it in my book, I think. We all started singing and clapping as everyone went in and came out. And people came out and genuinely said that was really draining, or that was really exhausting. And then Narinda, I think, just said, "Oh, that was absolutely easy. I could have got rid of all of you." You know, typical humour that she's got. So people came out with really funny remarks. It was really fun. It actually was really fun, you know. And people came out and go, you know, sort of, and we're really either really genuinely concerned and upset, or really like, "Oh, you all can go," and all that. I've done you all. Yeah. So it was a really sort of it was difficult because to nominate so quickly, you know, if they'd left it a little bit longer, maybe, I don't know what they did, but you hardly knew anyone. So I could have, and also I didn't think strategically. I'm not really like that. I go on my feelings, and I'd already forgiven Stuart for the row, so I didn't nominate him. You know, I think he nominated me. I nominated Emma and Helen, but I don't. But at the end of the day, I should have really thought about who I was nominating for a really strategic reason. But then I didn't think like that. So if you don't think like that, I just did it on my feelings, you know, and that's all I did. Whereas,
you're right. You nominated Helen and Emma, and you were nominated by Emma, Bubble, Dean, Elizabeth, and Stuart. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Dean did it because he just, you know, later he gave an interview when he came out. He said, "Who in their right mind would have sat down and thought it's a good idea to put Penny into the show?" You know, with the emotional, you know, stuff that, you know, I was, and the way I was, you know, and I think to myself, and what then I had to cope with when I came out, you know, at the end of the day, he's very he was quite a sensitive, astute bloke, you know, and you could see I was losing it a bit. I was getting a bit frantic because I was feeling really, they were talking about me a lot. I don't mean to be horrible, but they were, and I did feel very you know, isolated a bit, you know, and a bit rejected. And even Vanessa Feltz said she felt utter rejection when she was nominated in Celebrity Big Brother. You do feel that rejection.
Did you get a bit paranoid? I mean, you had that little vent to Narinda, didn't you? Where you basically said they think I'm neurotic and weird.
Yeah,
How about Bubble with these hats or words to that effect? I mean,
I know.
You know, from your perspective, that clearly must have had a bit of a downward effect on your emotional feelings.
What upset me was they all could act as crazy as they liked, right? So Narendra and Brian acting out really fun but really crazy stuff. Bubble and Brian, you know, everyone was acting out stuff really crazily. And then when I did something, I'm the one that's a lunatic. But I'm just doing my stuff, you know. Do you know what I mean? And it was like they didn't get me. You know, when some people don't get you, like they didn't get. It seemed like they're like, why are you dancing like that? And I'm like, felt like it. But you're weird. Why are you so weird? And I'm like, well, what are you doing? You know, you're like, you know, putting stones in people's bed, whatever. You know, they seem to be allowed to be really eccentric. And when I was eccentric, which is in me to be eccentric, it seemed to be really frowned upon. And they thought
it's strange, isn't it? Because when you look back at this particular series in particular, the precedent was set at the start. We were going through a big change in this country with people's attitudes towards homophobia, for example. And I think the stall was set out with this particular series, with Brian coming onto the show and openly coming out as gay at the start of the series. And looking back on this particular one, I don't think you ever stood a chance because of that. I don't think anybody stood a chance because of that. And I think it's a massive positive because Brian Dowling and what he did changed things for the better in this country. But I do personally think that probably it changed the narrative. And I think what we all have to remember, you know, certainly now because you've been on the program, but I think anybody who watches Big Brother and the next series is about to hit the screens. But anybody watching it, you must remember that it's edited and things are edited for a reason. And producers will see what works and what doesn't work when they're editing and go, that's what's getting the headlines. That's what's getting front page. That's what's driving the ratings up. And it's a ratings game, isn't it, Penny? It's as simple as that. And they don't care about your feelings, or they didn't in those days because they didn't have to. They don't care about your body being, you know, shown on national TV to millions of people. They're not bothered about they weren't bothered about the after effects of your life. They were just bothered about ratings and money. Yeah.
And that's something I've then, you know, if you hide away from something for long enough, you have to come back round and face it. And I thought in 2020, enough's enough. Because
let's do that. Let's talk about your eviction. Let's talk about that. I mean, you mentioned a little bit about coming out, and then we'll go to the book. The eviction. I managed to dig up this wonderful photo of you. You look very happy, shall we say, Penny?
Well, I was really glad, and I felt it was just suddenly felt really free and happy, and thought, well, that was that experience. Now I can get back to normal. You know, can get back to my friends, my home, get back to my teaching. You know, get back to my little theatre, my theatre job that just started at the school, you know, get back to everything that was my safety and my sanity. And that didn't happen at all because, you know, I didn't know anything about the papers. I've been on the front page for all over the world for at least 2 weeks. And like yourself, being a trained actor, obviously when I met loads of famous people, they're like, who are you? You know, some very, very nice people became friends, but I totally understood because they learned their trade, they've studied, and then I'm suddenly, basically, I was like the most famous person in the world for at least 3 days because you're the only reality star coming out reality show, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I walk into the interview and I think it's all just like fun. I thought that's just done for the evening. So when she asked me questions, I thought it was funny instead of realizing that this was very serious. And I had to watch that again on YouTube. She said very, very quickly, she said very quickly, we saw you drop your towel and show your nether regions to the world. But what about this? and then she holds up a photo of a front page, and it's I want to go all the way, you know. And I was just looking for it, but you know, so, and at the end of the day, I'm thinking to myself, you know, that, and I was immediately thinking, what is this? You know, what have I wanted to go all the way on? And then she went into about 6 or 7 questions about me wanting sex with Paul, and I suddenly thought, is she being serious about this? And so I literally had to say to her, I really, really didn't want sex with Paul, but I didn't have a chance to say I really didn't drop my towel, because I didn't even know I dropped my towel. I didn't drop my towel. Mm-hmm. So all those stories on the outside were written, and I was unaware of them, completely unaware of them. And then I finished that one, and I had to go and do a press conference. There's about 300 photographers, press in the room, and then I had to go up to the room and decide on an offer. You know, it's a really intense evening. I had all my friends there, but I wish I'd known. People are prepared now when they come out of Love Island or something. They're prepared for what the press has said about them, so they can. I didn't have a chance in that initial interview, which probably was my moment to say. I didn't have a chance to say what you're talking about, because I didn't even know it had been going on. Does that make sense?
No, of course it does. Yeah. I mean, was there any aftercare for you? I mean, you know, you were thrust into a press conference. You see your friends and family. Suddenly you're getting all these revelations. No aftercare whatsoever in those days.
No, I had to make that decision about 12:30 at night in the room with some girl who didn't give me any advice. So instead of taking the tabloid stories, they wrote stories about me anyway. But morally, with my faith in it, I thought I don't want to do I don't want to be in the tabloid because they might make it something it isn't, or whatever, you know. So I picked OK magazine, because in those days that was for the rich and famous and Hollywood stars. And I thought, they'll give me a lovely ball gown to wear, or give me something lovely to wear. And that was a dreadful, because on the 9th of June, goes out on the 8th, it said in the papers that I was with the psychologist all day for hours and hours. Well, I wasn't. I was at the OK magazine interview, which they didn't bring anything for me. I had to bring my own clothes, all my little funny little clothes, and then they sold some dreadful photos of me to the tabloids before they even paid me. So I don't know what money they got for that, because they said, we're not going to pay you unless you get in the bath, and then they said, we're not going to pay you unless you stand up in the bath. And I was trying to keep the foam on me, and they're trying to flick it off. And I've written all that in the book. It's the first time I've talked about it. And I didn't go for any help after that. And they sold that picture into the tabloids with a sign by my what's-it-call-it, saying I still want to teach. And before they even paid me, so they must have got a massive amount for that photo. I wish I'd done that myself. You know, should have taken a tabloid, because you know what I mean? I should have done it myself. Yeah. But I didn't know what to do. So not only was I not told anything when I had an interview, so I couldn't even talk about who I really am. Then I go to this thing and I get done over again. And my mother was phoned in Spain on the phone. Only I had the number, told by a journalist that her granddaughter had died in a car crash. So the hacking was all over my sister's phone. I didn't do anything about that. I don't know, I've probably run out of time with it now, but I might try. But I tell you something, I didn't do anything. And I woke up 2020, I thought, I can't cope with this anymore, because I kept losing teaching jobs, you see. Yeah. It never went away. It's like a running script. A running script, because the same paragraph comes up. It's come up for 23 years in stories that Alison Hammond or Kate Lawler, or the 20th anniversary of Big Brother. There's me, Ryland and Davina, and the same paragraph written in my book. Penny, who dropped her towel and showered naked in the shower. Blah, blah, blah. And it does that before a story about Alison Hammond, before a story about 20th anniversary. Surely they could have picked someone else for the 20th anniversary. Why me? Why that paragraph? That's what I don't understand. And no one ever personally, they put a tiny apology in the paper saying it was a mistake for them to show the towel drop. But they never apologized to me personally. And if they know it was a mistake, why didn't they edit it out? I read Jean Ritchie's book, and Brian flashes his do-lanky twice to Narinda, and that's not flashed all over the place.
I mean, I know there'll be reasons why some of these stories probably don't get revisited, but I mean, we just need. We're talking about Anthony Hutton, who I gave a bit of guidance to, and he went on to win it the following year.
Yeah.
After he'd auditioned, I think there was an infamous scene with him and McCosey in the pool. We can remember, God bless her, Jade, who of course did something rather significant. I'm sure in the house as well. There was also another contestant who didn't leave much to the imagination with a bottle in Big Brother. So we could go on, Penny. I think there's been a few cases of lewd behaviour, shall we say, which
but you're tied to that. Once the thing is, because people did do that, like you're saying, the show became more adventurous, shall we say, and that's fine. I don't judge anyone, but then I get tied to that.
Yes.
As if I obviously must have done it, because that's sort of people that go in and have a laugh doing stuff like that.
Tarred with the same brush, unfortunately. So let's fast forward to the book. It's out there now. People can get it on Amazon. I've stuck the link down in the bottom in the description. Meet Me at the Mirror, Coping with Reality, Penny Ellis, Big Brother 2. A must read for those of you who are interested in this particular genre. But what made you want to put it all down? Was it a bit of therapy? Was it getting the truth out there, or was it a bit of both?
Yeah, it got to the point. Lockdown happened and I couldn't teach anymore, and I was forced out of the last job in a very ugly way. Again, I've been through lots of things. I know you don't like Nick. So that was that. And I thought to myself, I cannot keep justifying myself. I'm a very good teacher, and then there was no teaching. And I thought, I really didn't know what to do. And I'd written a Christian book, so I got my faith. And my husband said, put Penny Ellis on the title. And that was February 2020. And I thought, well, I don't want to do that. I've not used that name forever. Kept away from everything, just to try and teach and be normal. And then when I did put it on the cover, then the Christian, like the television and America, TBN, they got involved. They suddenly wanted me to do this interview up in London and make an advert for them, for America channel, then Premier Radio, then the Christian magazine, and all that. So it was really big. And I thought, whoa, I didn't actually think anyone would remember me. And then Mark said, well, you might as well write this thing. And I didn't want to. And I wrote it. And then he kindly read it and said, you've got to go deeper. He said, you can't just put day 9, we built a fire. You've got to describe this place. You've got to describe your feelings. And that's what I'm saying to you earlier on, where I had to go back and almost process a character that you're getting ready for a film. I'm going back to get ready for and it's taken 3 years, and it 2.5 years, whatever. I had to go back into my mental, physical, emotional, the whole of me, and I had to really find out where I was with it and what it was all about, and to be able to describe myself at the time and how I've come through that into who I am. But I then realized, obviously, like with anything in life, there's veins of things that are there from childhood, from things in your life, mental illness, mental health, OCD, lots of low self-esteem. These things were heightened by fame, which is a very difficult thing to handle if you're not, trained in it or understand it. And trying to claim back the narrative of not only of narrative of myself, of the whole, like a wholeness, finding that wholeness again.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to write it as look at me, here I am, I'm Penny from Big Brother. No, look at me. There's got to be loads of us around the world. You've got 24. Those people that got in, or those people that didn't get in, or got in and then came out and maybe didn't get what they hoped for. Some of them would have hoped for stuff, and they're going to be in the papers as where are they now? Sitting in a bedsit. There's nothing wrong with that. Or lost all their money, or lying in the street or something, whatever. And so basically, lots of people who hoped to get something from it, or just thought it was going to be a lovely, and then it was going to be over and that was fine. Didn't expect anything from it, but then they'd be left alone. Suddenly have to find themselves again, and that's so. I thought it would be a message to people who, either have been through Big Brother or people who've been through something. Okay, that's something I put myself through, but some people have dreadful shocks, where your life is turned upside down. How do you regain your sense of sanity? And I've got my testimonials in there. I've got my Christian faith in there. I've got lots of people's testimonials. I've got my, journey through everything really in detail. Obviously, the Big Brother house, the Big Brother auditions. I've got all the letters. I've written everything in there that I've got, and so everyone's got all that memorabilia and all the info's in there. And then also the whole journey of trying to regain your sense of self and your sense of self-worth. And everyone has a right to have respect. At what level of fame, what level of anything are you not allowed respect? And I've not been respected. I've been ridiculed and humiliated for so many years with the teaching, bullied like there's no tomorrow, and having to explain myself and hiding from, just not even wanting to think about Big Brother. Whereas actually, I really loved being in Big Brother. I loved it. I had a wonderful, apart from all this towel dropping business, like you say, what an experience. And so now I can actually enjoy it. Now I've got the book, I can enjoy the fact I was on Big Brother.
Well, that's good. That's good. Last couple of questions. One which I wanted to ask earlier, but I'd forgotten to put it to you. You were the oldest female in the house in Big Brother 2. Do you think age counted against you, Penny?
Well, I think it's hard to say, Nick, because I keep forgetting your name.
Steve.
The brown-haired girl. Anyway, so I'm getting nervous. Carol, no, what's her name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, sorry. Yeah, she was very, very, very serious, and I thought, gosh, she's old, but then but I've always been young in my years, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I've always been a bit ditzy and a bit silly, and I'm still like that now. And I think I'll always be like that, we're just be a young old person. So I didn't stick, but then I think what I did find in there was like, I didn't find a topic that I could talk about with them. That's what I found difficult. Narinder and Brian had a really fun banter. Like we've said, everyone had a banter, and I didn't find that banter. And on the outside world, I've got so many friends and have such a good banter. I just found myself becoming a bit more formal because I didn't have anyone to have a banter with, because they didn't really get me. A bit like what you're looking like now, like as if you don't get me.
No, I know. I've completely understand. I completely understand.
I'm joking, but at the end of the day, you may put this down and think, blimey, God, did my head in. Can't Sharp go on? You may not like me. Who knows? But at the end of the day, that's the danger, is you're going to go in there and you may not find anyone that you really get, that really warms your heartstrings, really, oh no, I've got to put the battery thing in, really warms your heartstrings and really does, sorts you out. You know what I mean? Where's my battery thing? Makes you want to have a laugh.
Yeah.
Oh, where's that? Oh, there it is. Sorry, hold on. I'm completely out of, there you are, battery for you.
Last question.
Yes.
Would you do it again? If Big Brother came calling, would you go back?
They wanted me to go in 2004.
Right.
And I couldn't cope with it. I did Panto and then went off and did something else that was loony. But they wanted me to go back in 2004. Oh, I couldn't cope.
Would you do it now?
Would
you do it now?
Well, if they asked me to do a little sideshow, that'd be laugh. We could do that, me and you. And then we'd have what would be really good fun is if we had a Big Brother's what do we call it? Big
Brother's little
brother's,
brother?
No, Big Brother's bigger brother. No,
yes.
Big Brother's older brother or something. And then I'm an oldie. And then what I'd like to do is with contestants that didn't get in, what I'd really like to do, have a little Big Brother's older brother show. And then the ones that didn't get in, they get to act out the tasks in the studio. And then people can vote, see which one was better, the one in the house or the one in the studio.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea. So if you organise it, I'll get on with you.
Fantastic. Penny, the book is a great read. Penny Ellis, Big Brother 2, Meet Me at the Mirror. Get yourself a copy now. Amazon, bookshops, wherever you buy your books.
And it's Morgan Lawrence Publishers as well.
Big shout out to them. There is a website, morganlawrence.co.uk. you can add to the cart and buy direct from the publisher. And I'll just read the little biog. It says, in May 2001, 10 strangers entered the Big Brother house where their every move would be watched by millions of people. In the days before social media, yes, there really was days before social media, reality TV was still in its infancy and the nation was gripped. Penny Ellis, a 33-year-old English teacher from London, had been chosen from over 250,000 applications to be one of the contestants on Big Brother 2. Little did she know that when she exited the Big Brother house, her life would never be the same again. Meet Me at the Mirror is a remarkable insight into the life of reality TV star, taking you on Penny's journey from her accidental audition for Big Brother through her days in the house to the unprecedented fallout from her infamous towel dropping incident, which ultimately cost Penny her job. From obscurity to infamy via the tabloid press, Penny candidly describes her battles to find another teaching job, her struggles with mental health, and how strong Christian faith finally enabled her to rebuild her life. $11.99, and it's a good read.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Penny, that was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed interviewing you. Have you got any message for anybody out there who may be going into Big Brother this year?
Well, if you're going in or even if you're just watching, just enjoy the oldest reality TV show, the first and oldest one that's been on telly. Just enjoy it, support, and be kind.
Lovely
if you're
message.
In there or not in there, be kind.
Lovely message, Penny. Thank you very much for your time. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks also to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you want to order some, then you can go to their website, mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks also to New Workwear. They were set up in 2018 and they are an agile and dedicated workwear provider. You can find them at their website, newworkwear.com. Thanks to Media Arts as well for all the help with the video side of things. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button under this video. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on your podcast providers such as iTunes and Spotify. If you'd like to take out a cult membership, which means you get a cup, a pen, a membership card, a scarf, and entry into the monthly draw, then put your smartphone over this QR code now. It'll take you straight to the site. You can set up and pay a one-off fee of £25. Alternatively, go to NUFCmatters.com and check for membership. If you're a subscriber, you can apply for a free car sticker. Just email John at NUFCmatters.com to claim yours today. The new Shearer raffle is up and running. 150 tickets, £1 a ticket to win a limited edition Alan Shearer signed ball. Enter now at NUFCmatters.com. We've got a couple of events coming up. Newcastle United Question and Answer Live with Liam Kennedy, Jordan Cronin and Dominic Skerr from Newcastle World and the Shields Gazette in association with NUFC Matters takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre 11th of August at 7 p.m. and tickets are a £5. The Christmas event will be with Frank Clark and John Gibson, Thursday, December the 7th at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £15 from NUFCmatters.com. And Waddle, Keegan and Beardsley, the class of 84, with special guests, takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 25th. Tickets are available direct from the theatre, 0844 24 91 000, or go to the website for further details. And don't forget, starting on the 7th of August, you will be able to hear myself, Steve Wraith, on the Northeast Footy Breakfast. This comes to you in association with the Tyne Radio, 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock, 5 days a week. Check out the Facebook for more details. We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.